Welcome back to the Steve Gruber Show. So many things going on and so much to keep up with. We had Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin, on this week talking about preliminary findings. And he said it's all very preliminary, but he says, I want to keep pushing stuff out so people have all the latest information. Had a whole list of things he put out here on the program this week. Multiple local law enforcement officials report 8 shell casings found near the body of the shooter, Thomas Crooks. Secret Service did not attend the security briefing provided by local special weapons and tactics, SWAT teams, and others on the morning of July 13th, the morning of the attempted assassination. Said communications were siloed. When they saw that there was a gunman potentially on the building, they couldn't even communicate to the inner circle of the Secret Service to say, hey, keep him off the stage. That didn't happen. And the list goes on. And I want to bring in my friend, Dr. John Lott, president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, crimeresearch.org, if you want to find out more. To talk more about this, John, good to see you back on the program. Look, first of all, this is inexcusable. Kimberly Cheatle did resign as a result of pressure from Republicans and Democrats. And I have to say, it is one of the most bipartisan walls I've ever seen in my life. The hearing in front of the House committee that the Democrats were just as pointed in their questioning and their comments as were the Republicans on this attempted assassination. But, of course, what option did they have? If they came out and showed any other stripe, they'd have been in real trouble politically. But let's start with how did this even happen, sir?
Well, it's pretty clear that a lot more people are going to have to resign than Cheatle. You have a situation where during her hearing, she was constantly saying the decisions were made by people below her. Okay, kind of, she, on the one hand, she'd say, well, the buck stops with her, but and then, 2 minutes later, she'd be saying, well, I didn't have any responsibility for making decisions on how things were going to be set up there. And so, which is why she didn't want to resign.
It strikes you as remarkable, doesn't it? Isn't there one standard? Okay, we've got an event. Here's how it's going to be handled. Here's your checklist. I mean, you go through your boom, 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 and here's how it's handled. It would seem that it would be pretty straightforward, standard approach, standard procedure, but it wasn't here. And in fact, the response now from the Secret Service to Trump, which I think is election interference, don't hold outside rallies. Don't hold big rallies outdoors. I'm sorry. They've held big outside rallies for 8 years or 9. Why? It just seems, don't let Trump hold big rallies. That's the takeaway. Crazy, right?
Well, I mean, he should be able to. It's only because of spectacular security failures that they have. I mean, the fact that the Secret Service didn't have a meeting with local law enforcement beforehand so they could all make sure they're on the same page on what's going to be done is just outrageous stuff. I mean, it's, standard stuff that they would have done in past years. But, the fact that the Biden administration has constantly refused requests from even Trump's security detail, his Secret Service security detail, for more resources. The fact that they moved resources to Jill Biden on July 13th. The fact that, it's just not Trump, though. I mean, with Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy.
Refused Secret Service protection. Until now, I believe that they changed that edict.
They did right after the attack on Trump. A couple days afterwards, they changed it. But look, Kennedy's been at like 15% in a number of polls nationally. Right. It's pretty clear that the reason why they didn't want to do it is they wanted to bleed him dry financially, make him have to go and pay for the costs of security there so that he wouldn't have resources to try to get on the ballot and advertise. It's just amazingly partisan.
It is. And let's shift gears a little bit here and talk about the political field we have now. Biden's out. Kamala Harris is in. It took her and they did the democratic process. John, they just awarded her all the delegates. It took 31 hours for them to award her all the delegates, not one of which had a single vote for Kamala Harris, but there she is. She's the undisputed heavyweight champion and the greatest politician to ever walk God's green earth. I know I've heard all of the fawning already. It's going to go on. You know, she's transformative. She's this, she's that. She's a word salad imbecile most of the time. And much of what she has said is going to come back to haunt her, laughing about marijuana, leaving the border open, getting rid of everybody's health insurance because there should be a single-payer system, and all of these things go on and on and on. But she's going to have $500 million behind her, so do not underestimate the ability of the media and the media complex to push her candidacy. What do you say to that?
Right. Well, you know, just so people understand, like on the marijuana issue, she would brag about all the marijuana users, people that she put in jail, and yet go on a radio show and make jokes about herself illegally using marijuana. You know, it just kind of shows kind of a blindness there. But you know, she was ranked as the most liberal senator in the U.S. Senate in 2019 when she was running for the presidency at that time. She was ranked as more left-wing than Bernie Sanders.
And that hasn't changed, by the way. One of the things we talked about just before you came on today, she wants to take away, she wants Australian-style gun control, which means just strip people. They call it a buyback program. I don't know how you buy back something you've never owned, but that's what they call it. But strip people of gun rights, and she wants to do it with executive orders.
Right. Look, I mean, she was to the left of Biden on gun control issues, and Biden has been by far the most activist anti-self-defense president that we've had. But, you know, she came out, she was in favor of gun bans being constitutional. You know, DC's ban on all handguns, she thought that that was perfectly fine because she said banning all handguns was a public safety issue and that jurisdictions should be able to go and do that. You know, you go down the list of things, she's in favor of being able to go and sue gun makers and gun sellers for any bad result that occurs. So, you know, right now, they can be sued if there's a defect in the gun and somebody's harmed from that, or if you break the law when you sell it. So, like, you don't go and do a background check and you sell it to a criminal who uses it in crime, you can be liable for that. But she wants to make it so that even if you obey the law, you know, do the background check, and the gun is used improperly in some way by accident, then the gun maker and gun sellers should be liable for that. Could you imagine if we ran the car industry so that if some driver is not paying attention and get into an accident, that you know, Ford Motor should be liable for all medical costs for all?
Of course not. But they've always treated, well, of course, they're trying to destroy the auto industry, too, with EVs and everything else, as you're fully aware. But look, we're going to expose Kamala for the next, 100 days, give or take, because there's so much to work with here. Word salads and terrible policies, and like you said, left of Bernie Sanders and everything else. And hopefully it'll help people like Tim Sheehy win a Senate seat in Montana. I got to leave it there, Doctor, but we'll talk more about this. We've got the next 4 months of all of these things, the investigation of the assassination, Kamala Harris, and so much more. Dr. John Lott, President of Crime Prevention Research Center, and you can find out more at crimeresearch.org. Sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Always great to have him on the program. This is the Steve Gruber Show.